a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching The Waterfront on Netflix, Trainwreck on Netflix, and The Snake on Fox.
So stay tuned to the end to find out what BJ likes to fish.
I'll really have to think hard about that one.
Until then, why don't you tell us about White the Wire?
You're talking about The Waterfront on Netflix? With their fishing business failing, smuggling drugs is the easiest way to make money for this wealthy family.
So, Beej, does this stand out in the genre of shows that have been coming up a lot, of like Ozark and that Western one on Paramount, Yellowstone?
It is interesting to see another Southern family business, in this case, fishing boats and restaurants, and somehow drugs are getting involved. There's large amounts of debt. There's family secrets and trauma. I think it just is one of those stories that has a wide audience who will keep seeing each iteration.
That's true. I mean, my first thought was there are 100 of these, but then there's a reason for that. Just like how I love all of these shows where like a kooky person solves crimes. This is that for people who need to see families in distress that turn to crime to make money. In this case, what I thought was interesting is our patriarch, Harlan, played by Holt McElhenney, is in the dark about his family's actions because of a health scare he has. And so it's interesting to see him step up as tough guy, but also he's doing it from the perspective of like, I actually don't love that we're drug running like this, but now that we're in it, and I'm going to see us through it.
Yes, I think that was a nice take on this story, where we have the son, Kane, played by Jake Weary, and Harlan's wife, Belle, played by Maria Bello, who were trying to handle things while Harlan takes it easy. And when he finds out about this, there's hints at him having a past involved with drugs or drug running, smuggling, and then them all having to now rely on Harlan, who has his own multiple health issues that he's dealing with.
Yes, having a wife and a girlfriend will do that to you.
He's having his affairs with alcohol, with women, and that's affecting his heart and his patience.
And now he's being triggered because he said he dealt with this with his, like you said, his past, I think his own parents, and now he's seeing it again because his son and his wife said the bills are piling up. First thought, best thought, let's do drug running.
Which is interesting. You see this debt increasing. This seems to have taken place over more than 1 month of missed payments. And it got so high that the only feasible solution was to secretly start a drug running business.
What were they going to do? Sell the house?
Or a boat?
No, that was not a possibility. That is too embarrassing. One scene that did make me laugh, because I think what this show did do well, is the campy crime, though it got a bit violent at times. But there is a scene where someone's head is shoved underwater with sharks as an interrogation tactic. That made me laugh so hard. I thought that was a scene where I would be scared. And instead, it was just such a silly, campy thing. It reminded me of the movie Serenity. It just was so absurd.
It was interesting to go from bloody water with sharks to alligators in swamps.
Yeah.
To also just innocent swim meets in the water. Like, this water, variety of things going on.
Getting the whole bayou in on it. Princess Tiana in the next episode.
I don't know if we'll see her in this kind of environment.
That's true.
But what we will see is Kane and his multiple love interests.
Yes, much like he is following in his father's apparently family history with drug running. Now he is also doing that with considering a wife and a girlfriend, which, mind you, seems like a very taxing schedule.
Yeah, this drug business already putting a lot of stress on him.
Yeah.
He also seems to be turning to more alcohol use.
Mm-hmm.
And now an affair with a married woman as well.
Just like his daddy.
And he has a daughter at home. That's a lot.
Just like his daddy. And there's an investigation because we can't get into it. It's a little spoilery, so we'll just keep it to the DEA sniffing around.
They want to know what is going on with these drugs.
We have missing drugs and found drugs and missing people and missing drug runners.
Mm-hmm.
And we have somebody trying to figure out what's going on, both from a crime doing perspective and from a crime investigating perspective.
People are talking.
Will you be listening and watching more episodes of The Waterfront on Netflix?
You know, I think this would be a would watch while folding laundry. I am curious about this DEA investigation. There was, to me, a surprising twist at the end of this pilot episode. How things are going to evolve now that Harlan has become more involved in the drug side of this family business.
Because he seems to be the only one who's good at it.
How do you feel?
This show is, let's say, not amazing. This one is not, I think, going to be submitted for your consideration for any awards.
Okay.
That said, I laughed.
Yes.
I thought it was very campy. I thought I was very intrigued by some of the mysterious elements, like you said, the investigation. What are we going to do with this twist? That was very, very juicy right at the end regarding the investigation. So this is also one I think I would watch while cooking, laundry, some kind of chores, where I think this one was made like a lot of Netflix shows. I feel like we say this a lot, where I think it's made to like digest like that, a bit distracted, maybe large amounts of it in one sitting because you're just wanting to get to the next reveal.
That's a good point. I agree. This is a multi-episode session type of show.
For sure.
So how about we go from a family on the waterfront to a family in Canada?
You're talking about Trainwreck, the Mayor of Mayhem on Netflix. This docuseries follows controversial moments in history, with this episode focusing on the scandal surrounding popular Mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, whose downfall was sparked by a leaked video of him smoking crack. So,
I gotta say, I appreciate that they didn't hold back from the facts about Rob Ford. We get the news clips, we get the news reporters themselves giving their account of what happened. And this documentary is really trying to, in my opinion, give a fair representation of Rob Ford's journey to become mayor and his tenure.
I think it reflected what appeared to be the media coverage around him in Canada. I thought that was a really interesting facet of the documentary or the docuseries, is that even when the video leaked, Canadian media got it first, but they wouldn't publish it because they don't pay for media. So it was funny because US media was like, hold my beer, we'll absolutely send this person whatever money they want to publish it. And then once it was live on Gawker, then the original outlet that received it could cover it. And the whole 40 minutes felt like that. It felt very careful and considered. I think that there could be even more discussion of the dangers of a pretty actively addicted, it seems, person in elected office. There could have been even more discussion about the way that he used media as a strategy because he was such a conservative. They talked about how it was then effective to say anything the media in Toronto is saying is leftists being against me. But beyond that, it just felt very, very gentle and fun, which felt like how he hoped to be reflected as well.
Yes, I think they did a good job of showing his fun personality, which is seemingly how he got a lot of votes. And you pointed out something really interesting, how they showed in Toronto, he went from being pretty friendly and open to the media when it came to being elected. And then once they started saying things he didn't agree with, like accusing him of doing cocaine, he started to claim that we can't trust the media, don't listen to them, shame on them for even saying things like that. So it's interesting to see how a person takes advantage of the media but criticizes them in the same breath.
That's true, because even that negative coverage was just like not even accusations. It was like, do you have comments on this video of you doing this thing? And he's like, this witch hunt cannot stand. I did find his rise to popularity really interesting because as a millennial, I remember the leaked video, but I didn't know anything about him. I do remember this video leaked. It was a big deal and it made its rounds on different late night shows. But I truly knew nothing about this man. I don't even know that I knew he was the mayor of Toronto and that he was this very, very beloved political figure. I think I just thought wild video of Canadian politician doing wild thing and having pretty outlandish reaction to then being found out. But I didn't know that there were multiple leaked videos and that it seemed to take actually a lot of, bad behavior, we'll say, and tough quotes following this for him to even receive backlash because he had such a connection with the community. So I thought the stories were really interesting of the garbage strike, how he helped settle that, the going directly to people's homes and helping with like their land issues and electricity issues, delivering sandwiches for the local sub shop. Like he seemed to have that grassroots elected official thing really down pat. And it didn't seem, by the way, like a strategy. It seemed like how he enjoyed engaging with politics in the city.
Right. He seemed more of a people person than a politician. There were some accounts saying that he kind of went into politics to impress his dad because wasn't good at sports, wasn't like top tier student, so what's left? And I think that did align well with his personality. Give everyone your business card, answer every phone call. We did, however, see the evolution of that to once he was in this position. I guess he assumed that once he was mayor, people would just only listen to him and remember the good and ignore the bad, because he does even comment on the scandals, the allegations, and immediately says, sorry guys, it did happen, maybe, probably, but let's move on.
And he literally said that. He was like, I'm moving forward. Are you?
Yeah.
So then you're on the out. It's like, okay, well, Rob's taking that step. Why am I not taking that step? It puts you in this position of then having to answer to him rather than the other way around, which was so clever and interesting. I honestly could have watched a longer series versus like, I know in this one, they're doing singular episode installments. So there's one on that disastrous cruise ship. There are a couple on Woodstock, the 99 festival. I am fascinated by what I saw. And I think that's my main critique, which feels like a cop-out critique, but it's not. Is I wish I had a little bit more because it did feel like friendly storytelling, but also he was quite popular and for a reason. And I imagine there are a lot of especially ignorant US audiences like me that did not know that he was this really beloved figure. So it was helpful to have that context because I was pretty stunned to learn that he was almost reelected to mayor even after all of this. And after he became ill and his brother subbed in for the race for him, his brother almost won with 30 days left in the race. No name recognition except for the last name and the connection to Rob Ford. And that almost carried him to victory. That's fascinating.
Yes, like you, I knew nothing about Rob Ford, really anything about Canadian politics. So this was interesting to see. And I think, like you said, it's a good sign because I also wanted to see more. And I think they did a excellent job with editing of bringing in highlights of the story. We did see his whole career journey. And I feel like I learned a sufficient amount. Obviously, I haven't done a deep dive to see what they skipped. I think that's exemplary of a good documentary where you feel like you got all the information. And now I'm curious, maybe I will look up some more on my own to see what happened in between that interview and the next interview.
Yeah, that's why I said I wanted a little bit more, is because of that curiosity that it spiked in me. So perhaps you're right that that's a sign of a good docuseries, because there were quotes that were included. He was this ultra conservative figure. So there were a couple quotes at the beginning that I was like, whoa, like, what does that mean? And it was just glossed over. So then I'm looking up like his healthcare policy, you know, and there were moments of him being caught saying like lots of racist things on camera, of possibly sexually harassing a staffer and having a pretty wild quote in the press in reaction to that. And those were really quickly covered as well. But I certainly looked those up on my own time because I just needed to know more.
So since this episode was able to pique your interest, will you watch more of these docuseries episodes in the Trainwreck Netflix series?
I will. I love a bite-sized information. If you were raised by shows like Best Week Ever, or I think it was Talk Soup, The Soup, I can't remember which is which, whatever Joel McHale hosted, things like that, then I think you would enjoy this, where it's this bite-sized look at this big moment in history. Oh, like VH1 had I Love the 80s and 90s and 70s. This feels like that, where it's obviously not in depth, but it is an interesting overview, and you are just then tasked with looking up, not tasked, but if you are interested, you look up whatever you want to know more about.
I think I would watch again casually. It's definitely interesting if you want to learn just about fascinating people and stories that might surprise you, especially if you are from the US and you don't know much about what's been going on in Canada. I think it's interesting to see how they handled their politicians and how that reflects on North America, the West, and the world.
Why don't we talk about the snake on Fox?
I think you're talking about that game show hosted by Jim Jeffries, where the competition kicks off with an action-packed entrance by the 15 master manipulators. So, Me Too, what were your thoughts after you saw 15 people break out of crates?
That was such a fun, high-energy, campy start to then a not as exciting first episode. They put together a really fascinating group of people to lie, cheat, manipulate against each other for $100,000. Some of the jobs I caught were detective, police officer, ex-con nonprofit director, pastor, lawyer, tech manager, OnlyFans creator, poker player, bull rider, a boxer with a 28-1 record, makeup artist, HR manager, bounty hunter.
I think that's almost all of them.
That's
Maybe.
a crew. That's such a fascinating mix of professions. So I wanted to see that more, like the social game between these people, or I needed to see the gameplay matter more.
Right. Because the competition breaks down pretty simply. They will do some challenge to win a medallion. That person becomes the snake for the week and are immune to elimination. And then during the elimination or the saving ceremony, they form a snake and they each choose one person to save one by one. Then the final two, it's up to the snake to pick who stays, which I thought was a cool take on an elimination.
Yes, it means that there's not a set group of people you're trying to manipulate and build relationships with, but rather it is so random because one person picks the next person, picks the next person. So you may think, I really need to manipulate person 1, 2, and 3, but perhaps 4 or 5 is your ticket to not being in the bottom. So I thought that was an interesting piece. I just wish the gameplay mattered a bit more than making the decision at the very end for the snake, or like how it sets you up in the game for that choosing process. And I think the game could have been a little bit, I think they could have done more with the first game. This was not a great, to me, first impression game.
Yes. For people who are supposed to be good at manipulating, negotiating, deceiving, there was just a little bit of bluffing involved in the game this week.
And not good bluffing.
They also made it, I would say, a little bit harder for people to bluff.
That's true. Honestly, what cracked me up was the OnlyFans creator whiffing it on the game, but then being very honest in the talking head after, where she was like, I got very confused by the rules, so I did stop listening. And I just thought, finally, representation matters, because I too would have disengaged. It made me think about all the times that you've brought like very elaborate board games and you have to actively keep engaging me so that I don't forget the rules while we're playing. Like, she needed a BJ with her to continue to actively keep engaging her, to be like, okay, remember, like, you need to find the box with the snake in it, with the snake medallion in it instead of an actual snake.
But I would also say, and we won't comment on who was eliminated first, in this early round, when you have 15 people still, maybe it doesn't matter that much how much of your manipulation is going on, because you can stay in the middle of the pack for a while, and sometimes that's best on these types of shows.
Often that's best, because on the other hand, we have this tech manager who's come in, she's doing the most, and it's absolutely going to blow up in her face. I feel so confident making that prediction.
She comes in with a whole list, surprised that she has her phone, but a whole list.
Written list.
Of things, of strategies to lie and manipulate all the other contestants.
It's just not, that's not sustainable.
No.
You will forget one of your lies.
They'll catch on.
You will accidentally build an alliance with someone who will blab, and then you will weaken another alliance. On the other hand, the makeup artist absolutely cracked me up. I would watch a show of that makeup artist doing anything. I'm talking about any activity.
With the OnlyFans creator.
Yes.
Spinoff
literally right now. Because one thing that you pointed out to me, more people are coming. They're introducing more contestants as the game goes forward. Let the makeup artist and OnlyFans creator go and do a spinoff show right now, and let me watch that.
Just kick them off now so they can start recording their new show.
And pay them. I'm not saying kick them off and like there's no prize. Maybe they get an even bigger prize.
That's their prize.
Yeah, the other show. Because the star power between the two of them, loved it.
So while we wait for their spinoff to get the green light, will you watch more episodes of The Snake on Fox?
Yes, but, which feels like the opposite of an improv exercise. I don't think that this game show is as strong as other game shows we've seen, or as silly like Destination X. So did I laugh? Was it enjoyable? Yes. I think that this really benefits from being a summer show. So if you're a game show person, if you haven't already seen something silly like Destination X, or if you haven't gone back and watched Deal or No Deal Island, which BJ and I recommend all the time, anytime, to anyone, then perhaps this one for like your lunch breaks or something, I think it's fine to watch casually. I'll probably do that. But if this were not on during the summer, like if I had Deal or No Deal Island and Traders back, this would not make the cut for me.
I feel similarly. I would put this at would watch while cooking, but if you have not seen Deal or No Deal Island season 1 and 2, go watch those first.
ASAP.
Priority. Okay, to your question, what type of fishing do I like?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm playing a new video game called Fantasy Life I, the Girl Who Steals Time, and I am an angler as one of my careers in that game.
Ooh.
So I like to fish for the virtual fish in the game.
I was going to say secrets gossip.
Oh, I like
Because
my
you
answer.
love juice. But I think that's an even better answer.
You know where we can find more answers?
Where?
On our website, thepilotpodcast.com, where you can find all of our reviews, and you can subscribe to us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, your favorite fish to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.